Welcome to the Resilient Woman Leadership Podcast, where professionally minded women explore the art of grounding into the powerful foundation that makes us resilient leaders in business and in life. I'm your host, Kathryn Regganie, and I believe that when we women connect deeply with our truest selves, we can collectively shift our leadership culture towards compassion, cohesion, and true creativity. Hello and welcome to another episode. I am so excited to introduce to you Shaye Woodward. She is a relationship specialist and master certified coach dedicated to assisting couples and individuals navigating the unique challenges of ADHD. With her BA in psychology and personal experiences, Shaye has become an advocate for transforming ADHD struggles into strengths. She has co-authored a self-improvement book, Winning the Human Race, with her husband that helps others begin their journey to being their best self. Welcome, Shaye, and I'm so excited about our conversation today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited too.
Oh, it's so wonderful. I think this topic of ADHD is such an important one, especially when we're talking about resilient women in leadership in the corporate world. But I really wanted to just talk to you a little bit about how did you come to this specialty? I know we talked a little bit before we started recording, so just tell me a little bit how you got here into this specialty.
Well, I've had ADHD my whole life, but I didn't know. And that is not uncommon for women. So that's something that I recently found out that women are usually late diagnosed. So that's why we're hearing a lot more about it. But the reason that I decided to really focus with the ADHD was due to a car accident that I had. Now, I was diagnosed around 30s, 40s, I can't remember, but I figured out how to do things as we all do. When we have struggles or we have things that we've got to do, we figure out our workarounds. Well, after the car accident, I had what's called a percussive concussion, and the concussion 10 times my ADHD. And so now all the workarounds I had were gone. Like they didn't work. They weren't enough or, they weren't helpful. And so I had to relearn everything again. And in that journey of relearning and also being a coach, I'm like, somebody's got to tell somebody something because there's just too many holes. There's too many, things that are out there that don't fit for people that are working with ADHD. And so that's kind of what led me down this path. And I've had a few clients, when I first started focusing on it, that they didn't even realize I had an ADHD. And once they started working with me, the symptoms were there. And I said, hey, you can go check it out. See if you do. But either way, if you've got the symptoms, look at what is possible. Let's try it. And as I've been working with it, I've realized not everybody does it the same way. So when I figured that out, it made me be able to talk to each person and find out their own process because your brain works different than my brain.
Yeah.
And my brain definitely works but different than a man's brain. So, you've got to find what works for each person. So that's what kind of led me there was going through, that accident and having to relearn a lot of stuff. But again, it's brought, this ability to be able to work with people too.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And before we started recording here, you had mentioned something about your son, and he sort of had a breakdown. And I just thought this was a really interesting perspective. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was about a year ago, actually. We were Christmas shopping and we were sitting down just taking a break and we were in the mall court, the food court. And I said, what's going on? Because he seemed kind of antsy. And he says, Mom, I've been diagnosed with ADHD. And when he brought that up, I was like, oh, okay, we're a blended family with 9 kids. Most of them, if not all of them, have varying forms. And he says, no, you don't understand. This is so stressful. This is so much. I said, tell me a little more. And he went on to tell me how he is so tired of everybody making fun of it and how we see all the memes about it and it's a joke. And, we kind of use a lot of humor with it. But he said, Mom, there's a dark side. And I said, what do you mean? And he started explaining to me some of the struggles that he was going through. And as he was explaining those struggles, I'm like, oh, I didn't really think of that perspective. Some of us grasp onto those funny and we're humorous, and some of us grasp onto the negative stuff and the hard stuff because we don't know how to get out of it. There's no tools. I mean, if you look around at social media, what do you see mostly? The ha ha, the memes, it's a joke, or we're going to make it funny or whatever, but there's no real tools that are given out there. You see all the symptoms, like if you have this, you could possibly have ADHD. But the bottom line is, where's the tools? Where's the skills? How are we helping somebody move through it without making it be, you have to laugh about it, you have to joke about it, instead of saying, no, I understand you're sensitive to this. Let's talk more about it and figure it out. Let me give you a tool. Because the more tools you have, the better capability you have of being able to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of the best tools that you've found for dealing with ADHD, especially as we grow older and haven't been diagnosed,
Right.
at a young age, but at a more experienced age?
I like that. The biggest thing is identifying where is your struggle. Because some people might be more like time management issues. Some might be like the paralysis, analysis paralysis. You hear that a lot, where they'll walk into a room and there's so much to be done in the room that they just get so overwhelmed that they just walk out, right? So those are just two that popped in my mind really quick. But with time management, you've got to retrain your brain to understand the time management, to understand that what is 5 minutes? Like a lot of us do not even understand the concept of time being like 5 minutes because we'll say, yeah, but we'll be done in 5 minutes. And 2 hours later, we're still working on it. So there's a loss of that understanding. It's just like when you talk to kids and when they were younger, okay, you have 5 minutes, because you're just alerting the brain and saying you got 5 minutes, and you could actually do 2 minutes or 10 minutes, but it's just starting to help them to recognize, right? So that's one. Another one is like, if you have a very overwhelming area, okay, don't go walking in there and say, I'm going to do the whole thing today. You've just now blown it for yourself and you've overwhelmed yourself. Try doing it for 15 minutes and then go do something else for 15 minutes. And there's a big name for a Pomodoro effect or something like that. I can't even remember the name. I just call it ping pong. So just ping pong. It's easier to remember for this
Yeah,
age.
exactly.
So just ping pong, do something for 15 minutes, because a lot of times our attention span gets really shortened, especially if we're doing something we don't really want to do. Do it for 15 minutes, go over there and do it for 15 minutes, and then come back. So as you go back and forth, you're getting more and more and more done, and then you actually complete the task. So it's what works with your brain. Some of them can go 25 minutes. Some of them are more like, I need 5 minutes and then I'm bored. Okay, well then do it 5 minutes, but just do it. Go back and forth and do it. And I actually helped a woman be able to get the clutter out of her home by just taking that one process and looking at it and then setting up the things that she wanted. So she didn't want clutter. She didn't want to have stuff that wasn't serving her, and meaning there's no purpose or point for her. Is it sentimental or is it a value? So there's just, there's different things that you can run through, but those are just two quick ones.
I really like that perspective where you said, sometimes people don't even have a perspective of what does 5 minutes look like.
Right.
Okay, so I'll be done in 5 minutes, and 2 hours later they're
Right.
maybe done, maybe not. Is it a good
Right.
idea to set timers?
For some people it is. Some people it isn't. And for those that it is, they have to train themselves to hear the alarm go off and actually react to the alarm instead of hit snooze or hit the turn off and ignore it. Because we
Okay.
do that too. So it's the technique is there, the tool is there, but we've got to take the tool and wrap it around what process they use. How do they figure out it's an urgency? And it has to be done. And a lot of times you'll see people procrastinate and procrastinate and procrastinate until it's like, if I don't get it done, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to fail the test. I'm going to lose that grade, whatever it is. But that urgency is what creates the priority. And so we want to pull some of that urgency out and help them understand if you do it a little bit earlier, it's that forecasting thing. Forecasting is something, if they learn that, it's gold because then they can start doing the things a little earlier or recognizing their decisions that they make a decision. If they make that decision, here's the consequence. So it's kind of like, okay, let me see what's hitting and missing.
Right. It's the dedication to really, like, one of the things that I like to teach people is pay attention to yourself.
Right,
You
right.
know, really understand whether you've been diagnosed or not.
Mhm.
Maybe I have something going on here and I should, you know,
Right.
call Shaye or however it is that they determine.
Anytime.
Yeah, exactly. Um, determine, like, is there an ADHD situation going on here or something else? I
Right.
guess. And that's a really good question. It's like, how do you
How do you
determine?
know? Yeah.
Yeah, because like we talked about before, it's everybody has a different, like, scale. I mean,
Right.
sometimes it's really obvious and sometimes it's really not so obvious.
Exactly. And so we have to first say, okay, what kind of awareness do you have? Are these traits affecting your functionality of the day? Okay, because there's a lot of people that they mismanage their time or they may be late a lot or whatever. It's not just one thing. And that's where a lot of people are like, I must have ADHD or,
Yeah.
oh, it's just my ADHD today. Ha 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 ha. It may be and it may not be. It may just be you choose not to do that. And so you're late or you didn't set up your day to be able to do things you're supposed to do. And instead, looking at it and saying, okay, here's the steps to knowing if you have ADHD or not, because there are specific things that they look for. But all of us, let's be real, all of us have a little bit of all of the disorders out there. We have a little bit of narcissism, a little bit of OCD, a little bit. Is it interrupting the functionality of your day? Is it messing up your life? I
Yeah.
mean, is it impeding? And so that's where you start saying, okay, I know I'm late all the time. Is that just because I feel like it, or is there another compounding factor going with that?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's interesting how you said, oh, it's my ADHD, it's my OCD. Sometimes I feel like it is so minimized in a lot of
Yes.
ways because it's just an excuse.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, it's just my ADHD.
right.
Right?
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I'm like,
Is
you know
it?
who you're talking to, right?
And I don't want to diminish that because I have ADHD in my family in a lot of different ways. It's more serious ADHD, bipolar kinds of
Right.
things. So I know it's really it's a thing and it can be very, very seriously. So when people do that, it sort of annoys me because it's
Well,
like,
and there are comorbidities.
yeah,
So there are a lot when people have ADHD, they may have something else too. So it's kind of like, when you have diabetes, there's a lot of times that you may have high blood pressure and you may have, other things like that going on. So you want to make sure that your ADHD isn't hidden by something else. One of the
mm,
real reasons why women are so late diagnosed is we don't exhibit it the same way. Okay, girls?
really
Yes,
shocking.
really. Boys are more hyperactive. They show a lot more of the physical side of it. Women do not. And so women exhibit it more with the mental. Okay. And I don't mean like they're mental. I don't mean it like
Yeah,
that at all. What I mean is we have a lot of that second guessing and those thoughts running through our head. And a lot of it's up in here. I'm not
uh-huh.
good enough. I'm broken. What's wrong with me? Things like that. Whereas you don't see as much fidgeting or as many types of, moving or, I mean, I fidget too, but they never classified me as hyperactive. Okay. But that's because I wasn't. It was all hyperactive up in here. So that's why we're seeing a lot of women late diagnosed because what also goes with it? Anxiety and depression. So women tend to be
Oh,
diagnosed with anxiety and depression and they stop there and don't look at behind it, which it's caused from ADHD. So
Wow.
that's why we're finding more and more. And when they started studying ADHD, they only studied it on boys when they first started studying it. So they're a little bit behind on catching up for us, you know? And girls, a lot of times don't get diagnosed until they hit puberty. Surprise.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little bits and pieces. And I've even heard people say, oh, it's just a fad for right now. ADHD is a fad. Everybody's got it. Ha ha ha. No, the reality is we're exhibiting it now. You're seeing it more and more now. They're understanding what it is now. And so women who have been lost for, decades sometimes in this don't understand, why can't I deal with my anxiety? Why am I always anxious? Because behind it is that ADHD. Let's deal with that. And then the anxiety may or may not change, but you'll know how to deal with it better.
Yeah. I mean, that's an amazing point because I know several women who are dealing with anxiety and depression, and the
Mhm.
doctors go, here you go, have a pill.
Oh, I
Here's a
know.
antidepressant. Well, do you really
Yeah.
need that? I
Right.
don't think so.
What if you didn't need the antidepressant? You needed to look more at the ADHD side of it,
Yeah.
and maybe you need to be having medication for it, or maybe you don't. But if
Yeah.
you are on medication, I don't care whatever it is, anxiety, depression, or ADHD, OCD, whatever, make sure you're getting the cognitive side of it too. Mean
Yes.
you understand what your brain is doing so that the medication works in cohesion, in a partnership, so that you're capable of having better and better success.
Yeah. I love that. If you've got the medication, make sure you're dealing with the other side of it too, because they can work very well together. And
Mhm.
then, as you start to deal with the mental side of it, especially for us women, um, then we can deal with more of the emotional side, and then
Right.
we can decide or work with our doctor, do we really need this
Mhm.
depression
Or
medicine,
maybe,
or can
do
I
we need that
reduce it?
amount?
Yeah,
Exactly,
exactly.
exactly. Yeah.
So how do we deal with this a little differently?
Right, right. And there are some people out there, the medication doesn't work. I'm one of
Mhm.
those lovely, beautiful people that my body does not. And I'll share a secret. If you have red in your hair, get genetic tested for medication. Because if you've been taking medication and you don't feel like it's working, it's possible that your body doesn't absorb it properly or it absorbs too much. So I know I have brown hair. See, nice, beautiful brown hair, but I have red highlights. And because of that, there's a genetic component with redheads with medication absorption.
No
Seriously.
kidding. I've never heard
I,
that because I'm a redhead. I mean,
Mhm.
I used to be.
I know I got some of my beautiful wisdom hairs too.
I never knew that.
Yes, yes. I found out just within the last 5 years when I had one of my surgeries. So be aware if medication's not working and there's a red hair line in your family, please get checked because it's for
Really?
all of us kids. All my kids have the same issue too.
Oh
They're
my
very happy
gosh.
with me.
Oh my gosh. I would love more information offline
Yeah.
about that because
Yeah.
um, that does run in our family.
Yeah, it's fun.
So I just think that's just so interesting. And the other thing I was going to ask, like, too, we're kind of running out of time, but I wanted to address like two things,
Okay.
specifically the women's aspect of ADHD. Is it
Uh-huh.
hormone
It
based
can
or
be.
can be? Okay.
It can be. I can't say for 100% sure it is.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that girls are being diagnosed around that time when they're hitting puberty. And it may be just that some of it is also the age. When you're hitting 12, 13 years old, what's happening? Well, you're going into junior high and high school, eventually. And you're dealing with a lot more social stuff. So maybe that's a component, or maybe it's the hormones. So it's kind of like,
The
not
same.
sure. The
And
hormone,
even the second puberty, as we're going through the change or the menopause years, I wonder
yes.
if there's any change in the ADHD from that perspective too.
There can be. It can get worse. It can feel worse.
Oh,
There is a component of emotional dysregulation with ADHD because we don't know how to gauge things. We may not be able to have social cues. We may not be catching on. Our feelings seem bigger than they really are. You'll see kids crying more. You'll see them reacting more with anger. And so when we go through, and that's probably another component with the puberty, going into it, and then also coming out of it. I mean, let's be real. Well, those of us that have gone through menopause, there's a component of emotional dysregulation anyway, going through menopause.
yes,
Let's
exactly.
throw some ADHD on top of that. It's
Yeah.
fabulous. I mean, inappropriate times, you either start crying, like I did it in a job interview, didn't get that job, figure. But it's kind
Probably not a bad idea then, right?
of, yeah. I worked the way I was supposed to, I guess, maybe. But
Yeah,
yeah, dealing with the emotions is really a tough one sometimes.
really.
And yeah, it
Yeah,
can get worse during puberty and menopause.
yeah. And the other thing I was wondering about is like food,
Oh,
diet.
oh yes. Girl, there's so much to go with on food, but I'll give you the short, quick one. Make sure you're getting omegas. It's very important because your brain needs it. Okay. That also helps with the processing. Antioxidants. Great for people with ADHD. And then make sure you get brain foods. Okay. So, like,
Hmm.
just an example, blueberries are a good one. Eggs are a good one. I'm not saying go eat these all the time. Just let's be reasonable. Okay. Moderation.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but making sure you get those omegas and antioxidants helps the brain to be able to process. And I'll tell you what, be very um, proactive for yourself. Go find what works for you. Like we tried medication with my son, it didn't work. He had all the side effects, that genetic thing. And then we ended up going to supplements. And the supplements that we used were absolutely fantastic and worked really well. But we focused on what does our child need? So focus on what do you need? Do you need the omegas more? Do you need the antioxidants more? And yeah, supplements, make sure you have a high quality. I don't care where you go, get a high quality one. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
You've got to make sure of that for sure.
yeah.
Those are the
That's
three things that we really focus on is brain foods, making sure you're getting omegas and antioxidants.
excellent. And Shay, we're running out of time, but if people want to learn more or get in touch with you, how can they do that?
They can go to our website, winningthehumanrace.com/ ADHD dash style. I know that's long, but I'm sure you're going to put it in the notes. So
Yes.
if you're
Yes.
worried,
So
don't
we're
worry, you
gonna
didn't miss it.
we'll put it in the show notes. So if you're driving and you can't get to it right now, it'll be in the show notes, and you can get in touch with Shay at your convenience. In the meantime, Shay, it was such a wonderful conversation. Thank you for coming, being with me today, and I look forward to more conversations.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Resilient Woman Leadership Podcast. Remember to take my Dragon Woman quiz at dragonwomanquiz.com. In just 2 minutes, this fun quiz will reveal your Dragon Woman and connect you to the resources so that you can leverage her power for good. And if you've enjoyed this episode, subscribe now so you can hear more inspiring stories from other resilient, wise women who will uplift and inspire you. Your review really matters to me, so please gift me back by reviewing this episode. Want more, Kathryn? You can find me at energy-pathways.com.